Welcome back to the law offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker on this September 16th, 2020. To reach us, go to QSB Law Offices. Uh, what? Go to QSBLawoffices at gmail.com. I don't know. This is new, everybody. I'm trying to tell you where to find us, and I screwed myself up. And on Twitter with at QSB Law Offices. Tonight we have a very new client. This is one that Brendan coaxed into our doors, and the client is we don't need no stinking age limits. So I'm going to let Brendan take the floor on this one to discuss what makes this of interest to him. What was it that caused you to want to get this particular client?
Well, there's two things. I mean, there's a whole lot of things out there that age limits just seem ridiculous to have, and we can get into that. But before I do, I think it's important that I make a statement
Okay.
from the fake law offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker.
Yes.
That is, there is one subject that there is a real hard line about age, and that is consent. And I think that brings us to this whole controversy. I don't know if you guys follow this, and it's not TikTok witches this time. This time,
The
it's
consent of TikTok witches.
It's the warlocks of Tinder.
I think the TikTok witches fully
Warlocks of
consent.
Tinder.
The warlocks of Tinder consent to everything.
The elves of Snapchat.
Yes, I think the warlocks of Tinder are led by what's his name from Two and a Half Men, but
Charlie Sheen.
Charlie Sheen. I think
Okay.
he's the head warlock. But
Could be.
I'm talking about the Netflix show Cuties. Have you guys heard about this at all?
I
No.
heard about it only because I saw it pop up on a Facebook feed of somebody wanting to talk about it on a podcast, and I'm like, this is like the Little Oranges, right? And so I like looked into it, and it wasn't
No.
about Little Oranges. It was about this Netflix movie about this woman and what she experienced growing up as a underage female who was like sexually trafficked or something like that. Like,
I wish it was that interesting.
uh-huh.
It's
Okay.
really a movie. Now I have not watched it and refuse. I was watching something on YouTube. Some YouTuber had mentioned it, and I kind of find his videos funny. And I don't know. I thought same thing. Oranges? What is he talking about? But the headline was something like, "It's really worse than you think," and I'm like, okay. Anyway, this is a movie about little girls, and by little girls I mean 11, 12. And the actresses that portray these people in the movie are 11 or 12.
Okay.
And it's all about this,
It's like a French movie too, right?
it's a French movie.
Well, that explains everything.
Well, maybe.
To further alienate our French clientele,
Yeah, there are a bunch of
Um,
degenerates over there.
I thought I would
Pulling
just
their
finish
wine.
them off at this episode. We've been leaving us, and it's time to really put them in
so
their
you
place.
haven't watched the movie,
Au revoir.
and I haven't watched the movie, and Greg doesn't even know about the concept. So, do we really need to go into this particular thing, or do you
All I'm
really?
saying is, topically speaking, that particular movie, people are boycotting Netflix all over the place.
Uh,
I didn't finish what I was saying, but the movie is really about a young girl who seems like she's being raised Muslim and decides to rebel against that,
yeah.
and as a result gets involved in an erotic child dance team. And some of the footage, I mean, I was watching this guy and he's doing clips of it. I watched a little bit of the footage. I turned off the TV, unplugged my router, cleared the
Burned it?
cache, felt like it, went outside and watched for some sort of car to come. That's how bad it was.
A black helicopter.
Maybe.
Well,
Black
Greg was
helicopter.
actually raised in a similar environment. He was raised as part of an erotic dance troupe at the tender age of 25, I believe. And I think that could be his story. He's called cutie by all of the homeless men around his block.
But we were
I
known as
think.
the unfuckables because we were very chaste.
Was that
We were cock teases, basically. We were very erotic, but we never put out.
What kind of
That's
outfit
good.
did you wear, Greg?
Ooh, it was racy.
Was it
Kind of like fongy,
fungi?
fongy. My nipples were exposed, little holes in my dance skin that showed my
Okay.
nipples off.
Did you carry sparklers too? And when you danced?
Yeah, it was tasteful though.
What's
Erotic but tasteful. It's the Unfuckables were high class.
okay? Well,
We danced for the royalty of Europe.
did you? Was like the king of Transylvania
Yeah, he
No. Prince Andrew,
command
probably.
performance. Yeah, command performances.
all across the nations?
Kim Jong Un.
I don't think the
We were very
timeline
popular.
works for that.
So I guess let's start with, that's a big age limit that people care about, just the sexual one. And it's very
Yeah,
controversial.
my point was to get that out of the way to any of the listeners who might see three, 50-year-old
Exactly.
men talking about age limits don't mean anything. I thought I just wanted to get that gorilla
Yeah.
out of the room right away.
Oh, you
That's
made me
it.
a little more concerned actually with how you started than what I was expecting.
No,
was
I
like,
just wanted
where's
to say
Brendan going with this?
Well,
No.
that's a thing. Anyone you know who really knows the age of consent laws is probably a pervo who
Oh,
really
for
wants
sure.
to know.
Yeah, my basic
He
conception
wants his
is
research.
that if a person is under 18, you just leave them alone. Just
Yeah.
like blanket, under 18, just leave them alone. And if
But
you're more than 20 years older than somebody who's 18, you should leave them alone. Actually, more than
What
20
about
years
two
older than any
16-year-old
woman,
kids?
you should just leave them alone.
What about two 16-year-old kids?
Well, that's
Should that
different
be
because
illegal?
they're the same age.
I know, but technically they're not allowed to have sex in this country. Two in love,
Well, if
boyfriend,
they're
girlfriend.
16, I think it depends upon the state you're in.
I was
Some
going to
states
say,
it's
not in
only
Florida.
14.
Oh,
Not
you're
in
right, yeah.
Florida.
Yeah, I think it varies depending upon where you are.
It varies state to state, but
Country to
um,
country.
yeah. Yeah, that's. I wasn't necessarily wanting to just roll this into that whole subject. I just wanted to get it out of the way that that's one age limit thing that I think all three of us can agree is a line in the sand. No,
Yeah, I wasn't even planning on
Yeah.
talking about that, and
I
I'm always good about just dodging those kind of subjects entirely. But that's me.
I only bring it up because it is so topical. People are talking about it, and if someone's just sort of scanning podcasts and sees whatever, and age doesn't, we don't need no stinking age limits. With the current environment, they might get the wrong impression.
Well, considering that I personally consider pedophiles should probably be burned at the stake, and the fact is that it's a huge political movement going on right now for various different people. I just kind of want to avoid that controversy entirely, you know. But that's me. I thought we were going to talk about drinking in the military. That's where I thought we were going with the whole age limits thing.
Oh,
Well, let's talk about that.
That's where I want to go. I just wanted to just say that so we got that out of the way early on.
All right. Well,
And then
thank you.
later on, we could talk about underage erotic dance troops more because I'm very interested in this topic now.
Yeah,
I forgot.
Towards the end of the episode, I can give you some links, Greg.
I think you're
Okay.
looking more for overage erotic dance troops, Greg. Like people over the age of
Yes.
70. I think that's really more your thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
They'd be robbing the cradle with me.
Right.
There's a
Go after the
place,
70 to 75-year-olds.
Yeah, there's a place in Florida called Wikiwachi. It's about an hour and a half north of here, and they have kind of erotic mermaid dancers that dance in this big tank.
Yeah.
And I went there with my boys for some reason, and they did
Some reason.
Place like Wikiwachi. Why wouldn't you take them there?
There was some
Wikiwachi,
sort of
no tiki, no
slide
surety.
park.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it was a slide park. There was like a lazy river. But anyway, maybe it was a Boy Scout thing. I'm not sure. But one of the shows was they brought back all the old broads that had been involved a long time ago, and they put them back in their mermaid outfits. And so it was like grandma mermaids swimming around in two-piece bikinis with tails and.
And did you
Like a
suddenly learn
manatee.
about the predilections of your sons towards older women
Both
all of a
of
sudden?
my boys have never forgotten that. I think both of them were scarred by it.
And now
and
they're
still
dating
quite
older
true.
women, probably. They're all like hanging out with grannies.
They're the gilfs.
Gilfs.
Maybe. I don't know.
So what would be the age limit on that, Greg? What would you say is like the oldest person that you should have sex with? What would be the limit on that?
Oh, no, none. People
None?
99.
100,
If some 99-year-old
120?
woman scores a 50-year-old dude, good for her.
I'm talking about for you personally,
bless.
though. Where would your limit be?
Oh, well, I mean, I don't know. Who knows where love might take one?
Uh-huh. Where do you think
Chemistry.
love would take you?
I could meet a 99-year-old woman who just revs my engine up and makes me just woo. She's hot. It could happen.
Okay. Well, I'm curious, like, how do you envision that? I mean, what color hair would do you think she would have? Would she be
I imagine
com
silver
completely
or
bald?
none. Yeah, none or
Just
silver.
like straggly hair, kind of like that witch from Excalibur, I think it was, or
Yeah, yeah.
Robin Hood.
Or her hair would basically be one strand of hair coming off her head.
It's like wrapped around the head.
Yeah, there should be no limits. Old people deserve to fuck.
I think
Leave them alone.
that's your bumper sticker, actually.
Their lives suck enough as it is. Give them something.
Yeah,
All the time.
I would agree that is definitely something that if you can make that happen after in your 70s, 80s, 90s, and you've got a consenting person to do it with, whatever, man.
Well, they got Viagra now, so it's more possible. And I just read about today. There's dick injections you can get. Porn stars use them. It's better than Viagra. It's surefire. They just literally stick a needle in your dick. They put this crap in it.
I used to live with this guy when I first moved to Oregon who actually had a penis implant,
Whoa.
which just freaked me out when he told me about it. And first of all, I was like, why is he telling me about this? And yeah.
He wanted to show
Yeah.
it to you, didn't he? I
No,
bet he wanted to show it to you.
He might probably did, but I asked him not to. I don't
Did he have the
remember.
pump? Do you know? Was it like
I
a
don't
pump,
know.
right?
He was a guy who was
Oh.
about 20 years older than me at the time, and it was guy basically this old guy living alone. And then I moved in with him. I didn't know these things about him before I moved in, but overall he wasn't a bad sort. A little bit of
So
racism thrown in here and there,
so
but
20 years older than you, that put him at what?
I think he was in his
50s?
60s at the time.
60s. Okay.
Yeah. Well, actually, how old was I when I moved here? It was 2004 when I came out to Oregon, so that was 16 years ago, and I guess I was about 38.
Oh, he was in his 60s.
Yeah, late 50s, early 60s, something like that.
He must
Anyway,
have been
so
on
it
the
was just, I
skids.
never even thought people would do something like that. I don't even like talking about surgery in those areas unless you absolutely have to.
Was he like a bit of a player? Was he getting action like he needed that because he was bringing home the bitches all the time, or what?
No, this guy was basically a shut-in, I think, but in his day he had been, you know.
Uh-huh.
As far as I know, maybe he was bringing in call girls. I have no idea. It didn't happen while I was there. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
He wasn't rolling in the dough or anything, which is why he would have a complete stranger move in with him without ever having met him. It was.
And then tell him about his penis pump. Yeah.
Well,
This
it wasn't
fits
a
like
pump.
one
It
of
was
those.
it wasn't a pump. It was an implant. He had an implant in his penis to keep him perpetually, not perpetually hard, but at least stiff in a certain area. Apparently,
Oh, like
I don't
a
really
metal
know.
bar
I
in
don't
there.
really know how it works.
Call
But
him up right now.
Yeah, if he's still alive. And that sounds terrible.
I don't really want to talk to him again. But
I do.
I kind of left that. I left that chapter closed until just now. Whenever we were talking about whatever we were talking about. So age limits are in all walks of life for all sorts of different things, right? But
Yeah.
it kind of starts with the age of majority in terms of age limits, where things start getting limited. What you can do, right? In other words, if you're not at the age of majority, you're still considered a minor, the ergo majority and minority, right?
Right.
So you're unable to do lots of things. Although I remember back in the day, if you were 16, with parental consent, you could join the Marines. They would let. And I'm not kidding
I think
either.
I've heard of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if
believe you.
I don't know if it still happens, but it used to be you could join at 16. So that explains a lot of things about some
The
people.
Marine Corps?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense because it's easier to break a 16-year-old's will than an 18-year-old's. Like you can really just screw their head up and brainwash the shit out of them easier. So that would be better.
Is that what they do in the Marines? They just
Yeah.
brainwash them?
They got to.
It's all Semper Fi, man.
Yeah, it's just like run into those bullets. You're probably gonna die. You gotta. It's a certain kind of way of thinking. Most people don't have.
Well,
But
it's the military, You have to you have to create that mentality if you want people to
Yeah.
follow orders, right? But if you're going into it, you're going into it with the concept of you're going to have to kill somebody
Yeah.
at some point, But you
That's
have to
why I don't wanna
obey
go.
you have to obey your your officers. Otherwise, everybody could die because all the
I
planes.
just knew that if I ever went to the military, I'd totally be the guy on a toilet bowl saying, I am in a world of shit, and shoot myself.
Are you talking about you would be Vincent
That,
D'Onofrio from Full Metal Jacket?
exactly. Oh my God, totally.
Okay.
I would break. I am a weak man.
You
I
the
would
one who would sit
crack
there and
into
like shoot the drill instructor and then shoot yourself?
probably, yeah, or something. Or
Did
just
you
get
ever
beat up by soap at the very least.
get
Bags with
beat up
soap in
by
them.
but soap by itself, like a bar of soap would come after you on its own.
I hope not. I
There'd be
don't know.
like no one else wielding the soap. It was just the bar of soap coming to attack Greg. This somehow animated soap. It came to life because it hated you so much.
This is a top secret weapon the military has. You shouldn't be talking about, Matt.
It's like a wind-up bar of soap or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how is it powered? How is this bar of soap powered?
AI soap.
After you.
Yeah, you don't know what the military has. I mean, I wouldn't talk about this shit.
Oh well, I think they build them in the 5G towers. These
Oh
bars
yeah,
of soap, these attack bars of soap, attack soap.
probably.
They come down out of the sky.
That's right. You
They
know,
probably got the recipe
it's
from
actually what's
Antifa.
been talking to QAnon, getting all the theories out there. It's like he's like, no, my magic bar of soap has been talking to me today. What other crazy crap can we tell people? Oh yeah, wildfires are started by wood nymphs and fire elementals, and they're preventing the fires from getting into Canada. Yeah, that's the next one. Anyway, sorry, I got a little on a tangent there. QAnon, bars of soap, fire elementals, wood
Wood
nymphs.
elves, wood nymphs,
They
the
all
druids,
they're all
the
working together.
druids of
5G
TikTok.
towers, Stonehenge, demonic rock and
Yeah.
roll. It all comes together at some point.
Hey, let's talk about that age of consent. Like, do you guys have an idea? Like, do you think 18 is a pretty good age? Do you think 16 is maybe better? Like when you're
Good age
16
for what?
to go into the military. What do you think? Do you think it's too low, too high, or
As
just
a
right?
volunteer, well, I think there's a reason that people have to be at least 18 before they can vote because I don't even know what that reason is. Well, shit, maybe we should just let people vote at the
Yeah.
age of 10 for all we know.
I was just going to bring that up, Matt. That's one of the ones that I think that should be lowered on the one end, meaning younger people should be allowed to vote, and I think should be prevented at the top end. Like there's a certain point, if you get to a certain age, you don't get to vote anymore.
Oh, well, why would that be? Because you're going to be dying soon?
Because you're watching Fox News too much.
It's a certain age where you just flip.
Yeah, because they just don't have any skin in the game. I mean, what the hell? They're just looking out for the last 10 years of their lives. So their only issues are like fear and social security.
Yeah.
That sounds like most of my conversations with people on Facebook.
That's why you should get off Facebook
Fear
right
and
away.
Social Security. It's the only way I can agitate my uncle who's in his 70s because he's like a total pro-Trumper, and it becomes amusing to watch him threaten to block me over and over again. And I keep telling him to go ahead, block me, and he won't block me, and I don't get it. I don't know why he won't do it. I'm like, all right. I think it's just to keep telling him that he's living in his own echo chamber if he blocks me, and so he'll just have the sound of his own voice and his sycophants to tell him
Right.
the same thing over and over. And whenever I accuse him of misogyny and racism and whatever else I decide to accuse him of that particular day. So anyway, why am I talking? Age limits. So
He's in the military.
what's
I
the
don't
age
even
limit
know the
before
answer
you
to that.
can't believe Fox News when you start believing Fox News? What is the age where
It
that
used to be
turns?
like 50-ish. A lot of
I
people
don't,
my
I don't
age
know. I
are
don't know that
flipping.
I don't know that there's an age limit on necessarily believing Fox News, but because there's certainly lots of young, crazy racist
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
But I think that young people just should be allowed to have their voices counted earlier. I don't know, maybe 16.
Well,
Yeah.
let's say, like, how many 16-year-olds do we know, and do we trust their opinions or not? Maybe we just make this a little more real worldish. Like,
Look how bad adults voted in the last election, how dumb they are. So is that could it be worse? I mean,
I don't
adult
know.
Americans are pretty
it depends on who they'd be putting up.
stupid.
They could be putting up freaking gamers or something to
Well, they put
become
up Trump.
politicians.
Maybe that might be better. Who
You
knows?
think it'd be better to just have somebody who plays video games all day long as president of the
Gary
country?
Gygax, the guy who created Dungeons and Dragons, should probably be good at government.
Well,
he created a whole
he
world.
created a game, but I'm just saying somebody who doesn't create games, just one of those guys who hangs out in his parents' basement for all the time.
How is a gamer any less qualified than the two current presidential candidates.
He's less qualified?
No, how is he? Yeah, how is
Yeah,
he less
how is he?
qualified?
Well, I think it
Well,
depends.
Biden's had some experience in government, at least. I don't know if
Yeah.
that helps. It's
Well, you
a
could
bad
say
thing.
Trump has had experience in government now, because
Well,
before he
now he
came
does.
in as a novice, now he's got 3 years of learning how to burn the country down.
Because
Yeah.
experience in government is the key factor in why somebody should be president.
No, not necessarily, but it does help to know how the levers work, if you will.
I think it depends
And
upon the sanity
be
of
able
the
to do
individuals
them.
involved. So that's
Yeah.
the real question here is like which one,
Sure.
who is sane out there? I don't know that the two candidates are necessarily sane per se. I think the only one that I could actually see, honestly, that I might be interested in is Kamala Harris actually being president. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
she's
at
with
least
us.
at least
She's a smarty pants.
she's got some experience with the law and understands, the rule of law to some extent, which our current president doesn't seem to understand the rule of law, nor has he any shame whatsoever. Um, Pence seems more of a toady or a sycophant, in terms of he's just doing whatever Trump's bidding happens to be, and generally looks like a beaten man whenever you see him. It's like he was the one who's supposed to have been running the COVID task force, and he barely could get two words out whenever Trump was around. So, it's like who's left over? Biden is just a card that I'm willing to play only because I don't think he's going to deliberately try and destroy our country in the way that our current president has tried to destroy our country. Now, as a gamer could deliberately go in to try and destroy the country because then they might think that they have the extra lives necessary, that if they make those big mistakes, they could, restart everything and start all over again. So, there might be some questionable responsibility.
Or they might see it as a big game. Like, oh, I don't give a shit what happens to the country. This is just a fun game. I have the army at my disposal, and I could just do some crazy stuff like in a video game.
I kind of feel like that is the current president.
Yeah, I think he's like that.
It's like you're not looking at the full
big
consequences of your actions. You're not saying
Right. So
how is everybody affected? So I don't know, Brennan. What controversy are you trying to create here?
No. I'm going to go back to what you said. The earlier question was, do we know 16-year-olds whose decision or vote we would trust? And I do.
Okay. Like
Me
most
too.
16-year-olds, would you feel that way?
I mean, I'm less and less connected to the 16-year-old demographic at this point.
Yeah.
But when my kids were that age, they're now in their 20s, and so on. But when they were in that age, I knew plenty of 16-year-old kids, including mine, who I would trust their vote explicitly.
Yeah.
Not any less, even if they disagreed with me.
Uh-huh.
Even if this 16-year-old was, a right wing, a conservative, whatever.
Yeah.
They were thoughtful, at least. They thought it through.
I would feel like he thought it through. He didn't have to. He's got his whole life ahead of him. Whereas
but don't you think they don't have enough interest in terms of the bigger issues going on in local communities? For example, roads and power and gas and what have you, the things that...
Most people don't know that shit. I don't know that shit.
Most people pay those bills, though.
This is true, but...
Yeah, and so
That's
it
a pretty
means
minor
more to
thing.
them whenever the taxes show up on their bills than somebody who's 16, right? More people go, this could directly affect my income, right? And I think that's probably a larger reason why people who are under the age of 18 don't have the power to vote, because generally at 18, you've reached the age of majority, you're an adult, and you're working.
So can I bring up
allegedly,
a point?
Unless you're like, I think maybe we should raise the age of consent. Or
but see, that's not a dissimilar argument to the way it used to be, where in order to vote you had to be a landowner.
Well, I think being a landowner or a land worker are two different things.
What does that have to do with it? You had to be a landowner to vote, he's saying.
Yeah.
Right. What I'm saying
workers
is that
couldn't vote.
Right, but I guess maybe I'm missing your point then. So what are you saying is...
You're saying that kids don't, 16-year-old, to hear that person's vote doesn't necessarily count as much as somebody who has to pay bills. And all I'm saying is, why? That's the same logic. The same logic is, well, if you're not a homeowner, if you rent an apartment, you don't understand property taxes. You don't understand millage rates. You don't understand where your money goes. You just pay your damn rent. So you don't get to vote. You're just an idiot.
Well, no, renters still have
in fact,
taxes
I'll go a
they pay on
step
their
further.
bills,
If you're not a business owner, if you work for somebody, your vote doesn't count.
people who rent still have taxes that they have to pay. People who work
True,
have taxes,
but not
they have
property
to pay.
taxes.
Okay,
So I'd be an ignorant voter on a property tax issue.
Kids pay sales tax.
Right, or income tax you'd have to pay. So, I'm saying those things are affected, whereas generally under the age of 18, you're not paying any taxes of any kind.
Matt, I get your argument, but let me counter with this. How many old people get to vote young 18-year-olds into some shitty war because they don't have to fight it? They shouldn't be allowed to vote for those kind of things. There's equal things that, this isn't your fight. You don't have a say in it. You don't care.
Right,
old people don't care if we
well,
start.
Well, they're not voting for 16-year-olds to go out to fight either, unless they volunteered for the military.
I'm just saying, for the same reason that 16-year-olds might not be ignorant about things like taxes and paying bills, old people are ignorant about the consequences of having to actually go and fight a war just because you like the idea of, let's start another war. We don't have to fight it.
So maybe what we should do is we should just enact a law that we can shoot old people out of cannons or something at the enemy.
That would solve everything. Yes.
Basically, everybody who voted for a war gets rounded up, and they're like, "Okay, you are now fodder. You are now that which is shot through the cannons. Are you still going to vote for this war? Yes. Okay, then that's where you get to go. Maybe that's how we can end wars. As long as we can get that on a global basis, I think we can get war to stop. Get everybody
idea.
Vote for a war, shot out of a cannon." Enough said about that. Anyway, but there's lots of other age limits that we can talk about. Like we can talk about speed limits, aren't an age limit. But I had a friend, and she used to think that the speed limit meant you couldn't go slower than that number, and she could never understand why she kept getting speeding tickets. So,
and she was allowed to vote
and drive.
Yes to both. That is correct. She eventually learned the opposite, but it makes you wonder. But it makes you wonder, at what point you can't really force people to do IQ tests to see if they're rational enough to vote or to drive. But you do have to take a test to learn how to drive. So maybe you should take tests to vote. Maybe that should be added to it. If you have to pass some kind of a test to be able to register to vote.
Well, do you know about Jim Crow laws, Matt? That didn't go over well.
Tell me how this is something that would be an ableist agenda.
No, the Jim Crow laws, they would make black people take these crazy tests you have to memorize the Constitution when you get to the polls. And white people didn't have to do it because they knew that most black people, most people didn't know that shit. So
I'm just saying across the boards, though, across the board. And again, that's where, the Electoral College comes in. But, I didn't really want to get into all this stuff, I just want to get into the age limits and what is appropriate or not appropriate age limits.
Let's talk about drinking. Drinking seems to be the one that young people think
about. What age
about.
limit would you like to discuss, Matt?
Greg just mentioned one. We should talk about that because that's one you brought up before. I don't know how we get sidetracked. It seems like we do it often. I don't know why.
That's our MO.
That's our
That's
thing.
what we do.
What's the MO stand for, Greg?
It stands for
I'm just curious if you know what it stands for.
Oopie.
That's what all the cops say.
It stands for modus operandi, which in Latin means pasta fagioli. It's that soup. It's in Latin. That's a delicious.
So modus operandi is a type of soup. Is there cheese in that soup?
No, it's just beans and it's yummy. You never had pasta fagioli? It's good stuff.
Actually, I haven't.
What
are the ingredients in pasta?
Lots of beans, some noodles. Other stuff. I don't cook. I don't know how to cook. But
you're Italian. You're supposed to know these things from a young age.
Hey, that's a stereotype. Shut your mouth.
Racist.
Yeah, but I'm Italian. I can do that voice. You can't, Brendan.
That's fine. I'm not trying to do the voice. I just said it was racist.
All right, well, I think if we're going to do stereotypical accents, I really want Greg to do Italian and Brendan to do an Irish accent for at least the next 5 minutes of this particular interview.
Talk about your Lucky Charms.
Let's not do that. Let's get back to
okay.
Oh, fine. You're not fun at all.
I know this
I'm,
is kind of a cliche, but
No,
the
I'm
one
with
thing
you're the one who just makes us too damn serious, Brendan. So like, knock it off. Do the Irish accent and like it.
he's the senior partner of our law firm. He's very serious.
He's the senior partner.
Yes.
Team partner.
I thought for sure someone was going to do the
I
accent for
discovered
the title
Florida.
of this episode.
What was that, Greg?
I thought for sure someone was going to bring up that accent from the title of our episode. You know, that's from not the Dirty Dozen, that one Western, Wild Bunch.
No, it's not from that either. It's from the Treasure of Sierra Madre.
Oh, that's where it first was?
Yes, with Walter
Oh,
Brennan
so that was
and
a callback.
Humphrey Bogart.
Yeah.
But
now
I think
when
you're thinking that it was actually from Blazing Saddles, though, not the Wild Bunch.
No, it's become a
Blazing
big
Saddles
joke.
made fun of it, but it was from
Wild Bunch
Treasure of
did
Sierra
too.
Madre. And the only reason I know this is because I happened to watch that movie a number of years back, and I went, "Oh,
Yeah.
that's where it comes from."
So I guess the Wild Bunch was a callback to that. I didn't know that. I thought they made it up.
I don't remember it being in the Wild Bunch.
Yeah. The Mexican guy's like, he has the thick accent, like, we don't need no stinking badges.
I don't think that was in there.
And just so you know, everyone, I'm half Hispanic, so I can do that accent too.
But you can only do half the accent. So you're gonna have to do like half of it as Hispanic and half of it as Italian. So how would you combine those two accents, Greg?
I'm not very good at accents in the first place.
I know, but that's why you should try it because maybe you'd be really good at it and you wouldn't know it.
Hey, that's a spicy. I can't. It's hard to do that.
Spicy
mix-up
taco?
accents. That's a spicy taco.
Taco?
Yo, say now we lost a bunch of other world listeners just now.
Yeah,
Sorry, Italians.
our Nigerian listener has gone.
Yeah.
He is no longer happening. So what would you call the name of that mask,
we-
Brenda, that you have on your face? Is it a style of mask you're wearing?
I don't know. My 11-year-old daughter brought these home for Halloween, and I said, "Are we doing some kind of like Irish thing or Bohemian Grove? What are these all about?"
Bohemian Grove?
Yeah.
What?
Is that from Eyes Wide Shut?
I think Brennan is having Wi-Fi issues.
No.
He's like very delayed right now.
I just bought a booster. I don't know why it would be. Seems fine to me. You sure?
Oh yes,
You're
because
back. Now it does.
Your face was getting it was like frozen.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's probably because they started watching something on Netflix downstairs.
Oh yeah, that
temporarily.
could be using up your Wi-Fi signal. That'll happen.
Yeah.
Would you like to
I
shake
did get-
that cup more into the microphone, Greg, so we can hear all of the
Was
ice
that me?
rattling in it?
Oh, is that me?
Yes.
I was trying to add some good Foley artistry to our episode. I'm a Foley artist.
Was that the sound of his people listening to Netflix downstairs? That's what you're
Yeah, I was
shaking
trying
the
to
cup
imitate
by the
that.
microphone. So I could hear their brains rattling down there,
That's right.
shaking their heads too much. I'm
Okay,
curious
can I-
about. Yeah, go
Not
ahead.
to be too serious, but
Oh
I know
yes,
this is a
please.
cliche.
Be too
But one of the
serious.
things that about age limits is no one in my whole life has been able to answer me since they changed the drinking limit in the 80s to 21
Uh-huh.
is that you can go and die in a war for your country, but you can't have a beer. And that's just nobody can, as how unfair and crazy is that? That's bizarre.
Well, I think it depends upon how the individuals feel about it. You know, they might go, "I'm glad I can't be drunk while I'm going to kill people." You know, but
Well, at the same
but the
time-
difference is one is done by the individual and the other is done by order. In other words, they're being ordered to go kill people, so they can also be ordered not to drink. Whereas if you're going to drink on your own, nobody's telling you to go drink anything or not drink anything.
No, that's
I'm
not
not-
the
there's-
issue at
there's
all.
not-
The issue is that as a citizen, you are expected to go to war at 18. You're that mature, I guess. They consider you that ready for the world. And yet you can't have a fucking beer after you get home. When you're on leave from Iraq and you see your buddies died.
Well-
No beer for you.
You're frozen
But
again,
what's
Brandon.
interesting to me is why.
And you're sounding robotic too. You're like kind of cyborgy. So maybe you need to
Shut up then.
kick them off of Netflix. So
No,
we
yeah,
can
go downstairs and rant at them and kick them off Netflix. And be like,
and you
I
have to
pay
do
the
it
rent
loud
here.
enough so we can hear it over the microphone.
That would be fun.
Yeah, we want to hear a lot of raging against the
This is
people.
my house. I
his,
paid the
his
mortgage.
head is totally frozen right now.
I just thought he was like so depressed hearing us talk about him. And like,
No,
just
his
like these
head-
guys are.
No, his head's
He
not
was-
moving. It's just frozen.
Yeah, I thought he was just silently sitting there going, these guys are such assholes. Fuck these guys. I hate them.
No, I was telling him because he was breaking up. I couldn't understand what he was saying.
Yeah, I don't
So,
see him at all. It's black for my screen.
oh really?
Should we pause the tape?
Um, Perhaps we should. Go ahead, Glenn.
So the question is, my question has always been why these seemingly arbitrary years. In other words, you're an adult at 18. Why 18 and not 19 or 20?
They are kind of arbitrary years. It's like where
Why do you
did that come
what?
from?
Yeah,
You know?
why do you drink at 21? Why not 20? Why
Well,
are we doing this on uneven numbers?
yeah, when I
Yeah.
went to high school in the Philippines, and there was basically no drinking age as far as I knew. So I was drinking at like 16 years old whenever I moved out there, and no one ever did a carding or questioned it or whatever. And so it was weird for me to come back to the States from that. And I came back when I was 18, and I started going to bars again. And then they changed the age to 21 and started carding people. And I'm like, wait a second, I've been drinking for 2 years. I'm like, you can't keep me from coming in bars now. I'm like, come on. But the funny thing was is
But
that I actually never really got carded when I was around that age, when I was 18, before I turned 21. But after I was 21, that's when I started getting carded. It was like an unusual thing.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know where that comes from, where people pick these particular ages. It's kind of like with the movie ratings, you know? Why is 17 the age that you can see things? That's kind of an odd number, literally,
Yeah.
to pick. You know, the PG-13
it's
part.
17,
Right.
right?
Yeah, but at the same time, they can still see it as long as there's a parent with them. So parents could
Right.
take them to see these movies. You know, the only ones they can't see with parents are the X-rated ones. That's where they
No,
don't
NC
allow.
17 was just no one under 17 allowed. It was X, but not pornographic. That's why they made that up. Like Dawn of the Dead, I saw that was you weren't allowed to go out. Me and my friend were the only kids who saw that movie in the whole town because his dad was a fireman
I don't think
and he had connections.
NC-17 existed back then.
It wasn't. It was unrated. They just
Yeah.
called those movies unrated, but it wasn't porn. So they wanted to differentiate between triple X, which you knew was porn. But there was a few European films that were unrated because they're really crazy and stuff. But
Right.
then they made NC-17. I think movies like The Bad Lieutenant for those arty films, but they're pretty harsh. You know, they don't want.
Well, Bad Lieutenant was
You know,
harsh because you had to see Harvey Keitel's penis. That's what
I thought
made
it
it.
looked pretty good. He had a pretty nice penis
Did it
for an older
great.
man. Yeah,
For a bad lieutenant.
yeah.
You know, the good lieutenant, they didn't show nothing.
Nothing. That was
Just
the
the
boring
bad
one.
lieutenant. Because the good lieutenant's going to be walking around in a
Yeah.
tuxedo solving crimes. Monocle, top hat. That's
And of
how.
course, these ages have all changed. It used to be you were a man when you were 16, pretty much. Like I think in the 1800s, you could do anything when you were 16, right? You could probably be a general in the army or
Well,
something. Or
wasn't Joan of Arc like 14 or something when she was running the armies of
well, there are
France?
no. Yeah, that was a fluke. She was a saint.
But still, you got
But
to be a
Yeah,
but no,
saint at the age of 14.
the
What would be
admiral,
the age limit for saints? I mean, there should be like eight when they like you can't be a saint until you're like 25 or something.
is that necessary? Are we worried about young kids becoming saints?
Yeah, I think that might be an issue
It's a
because
problem in our
they could
country
start a revolution or something. I don't know.
against the English.
No more the Catholics. There would be like no saints allowed because I don't think saints aren't really like looked upon in the Protestant faith, are they?
No,
They're
that's
saints.
a
Yeah,
Catholic thing.
I thought
no,
it was like a Catholic or an
that's a
Orthodox
Catholic
thing, right?
thing.
That's papistry.
Right, but also patriarchy with the orthodoxies, right? Because isn't it a patriarch that runs the Orthodox churches, like Eastern Orthodox, Russian Orthodox, Serbian Orthodox?
By that, do you mean men?
No, I mean like that's actually what they're called. The person who leads those churches are called patriarchs.
That's
Oh
Pope.
yes, yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
That's what they call a
That's
Pope.
a different definition. Yeah.
yeah, instead of the Pope. Is it a Pope?
So
Is it a
so so to,
patriarch?
so to answer my own question, while you guys were talking, I looked it up, and the 21-year-old thing was a movement led by Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and where they statistically found that places where the age limit was 21, there was less alcohol-related car deaths of young people.
Well,
And
that
so
makes
that's why
sense.
they picked 21.
If you raise the limit to 35, you're going to lessen the amount of car deaths too.
Right, exactly.
You
Let's
know,
raise it to 50.
yeah, I mean that would
Yeah.
be significant. It's like if you really want to drop the whole car deaths involving with alcohol, just keep raising the age up, and you'll jack that down. Of course, you'll have more gangs in Chicago if you do that, who'll be taking over town, and bootlegging booze from Canada again. But
Can I ask you guys something that I never, as someone who doesn't drive, so
Greg,
drinking,
don't ask.
driving,
Don't ask. Just make it a statement.
don't tell, don't ask,
Yeah.
don't tell.
Right.
Okay.
Don't tell
Matt,
anyone you're
God
asexual.
damn it, you're going to listen to me right now. So as someone who doesn't drive, so I got no skin in the game, as we have said, because I don't have any temptation to drink and drive because I don't have a car or a driver's license.
Did you say jerk and drive? And when you say skin of the game, are you talking about circumcision? What are you talking about?
I did not say jerk and drive. I said drink and drive. But then again, I'm slurring because I'm drinking and talking.
Oh,
Which
okay.
there should be a law against that.
I think
But
you're right.
so I knew a friend of a friend.
Jerking
who
and
got
driving
busted.
is never a good idea.
Yeah, but
Truckers don't
twerking and
appreciate
driving
it
is
either.
great.
Twerking.
But I knew a friend of a friend who was arrested for DUI and had to have that breathalyzer in her car so her car would not start if she was inebriated. And I was thinking to myself, why shouldn't every car in America have that? You shouldn't be driving drunk, right? So it's not really an impingement of your freedom. It's just
Well, if you're not somebody who drinks, why would you be forced to have to do that? If you're a teetotaler.
Because it takes a second, you breathe into it. Hey, I'm sober, yeah.
Yeah, but it's also one more thing that can go wrong with your car. No, it's
It's
a punishment, Greg. It's to punish people for being dumbasses.
I thought it was to keep them off the road.
Right,
that's called drunk people driving.
That's called a punishment, Greg.
Yeah, but we don't want to. You know how many friends I know who aren't criminals who drive drunk? Almost all my friends,
right.
Fuck it, I'm gonna drive.
Right.
They're not in jail.
And I get what you're saying, but people that get arrested for drunk driving are obviously they're outliers on the amount of they've drunk, because you can have a couple of beers and drive your car and not be impaired. If you're driving your car in
Florida,
impaired,
that's 20, Greg.
Yeah,
2 cases of beer.
Here,
Right.
But if you literally went out to dinner with your wife and had a couple of glasses of wine with dinner, you would drive home and you would not be impaired. That's why they have blood alcohol limits.
But I think that's against the law.
So
I think even 2 drinks, technically.
No, it depends upon your blood alcohol limit, Greg.
It's the blood alcohol level.
It's not how many drinks you have. Because I could have 2 drinks, and then someone really tiny who has 2 drinks would be affected much differently by those 2 drinks.
Right.
Okay.
You can't do it based upon what you drank.
So your breathalyzer would tell you, Matt, as a non-tiny person,
it would say you had too much
okay
pasta
that
day.
Yeah, that too. Your cholesterol is very high. You can't drive, fatty. Get off the road, fatty.
You're gonna have a stroke.
It's like your chair's too uncomfortable. You're gonna have to get out.
Yeah.
So right. So if Matt had 2 beers with dinner and went out, even if he had that thing installed and he blew into it, it would let him drive. If Skinny Pete, who weighs 120 pounds soaking wet, had 3 beers and went out, it might say he can't drive.
Depending
Maybe he shouldn't be driving.
Maybe not, Greg. But the fact is that there are also people who don't drink at all.
Yeah.
They should not be punished by some breathalyzer in their car.
It's not much of a punishment. You just go really quick and you're done.
You're not a driver, so you don't understand.
I know.
That's why it's like one more thing that can go wrong with your car. It's like whenever.
Guys, can I preface it by saying everyone I've ever told this theory to is against me, and so I don't know why I brought it up. I knew you guys would disagree because I don't drive.
Everyone is against you, Greg.
Drive.
I mean, in theory, I understand your point.
It would stop all drunk driving.
But it's kind of like, why not just manacle everybody at home? That'll prevent all crimes.
No, that's very different.
Oh, is it, Greg? Is it different, Greg? It's still a violation of freedoms, is what it is. You're violating.
You shouldn't be allowed to drive drunk ever.
According to you, and that's why you're not allowed to vote. You're not old enough to vote, Greg, and you should not be given any of the privileges of people who are 16 who are allowed to vote. Because you can't make rational decisions about other people's driving.
I think it's very rational.
It's irrational.
Very rational.
If you tried to put that in place in Florida, there would be a civil war.
I think
we would secede.
Yeah.
I think it
The
would be every.
Union.
I don't. It wouldn't have to be Florida. It could be frickin' New York City, and it would be that. Of course, a lot of people in New
Yeah.
York City don't drive, but still, they would be going. Hey, I ain't putting up with this. Is that racist to do a New York accent, Greg?
No, that's a regional dialect.
Okay,
That's a
so
regional
that's
thing.
not racist. Just want to make sure.
Unless
I
you do a New
remember.
York Hasidic Jew accent.
I don't know that one.
I
I
remember.
don't
I
either.
remember going to Texas for the first time and experiencing drive-through liquor stores. I'd never experienced that.
Yeah, I've heard of
Do they have
those.
the? Do they have those in Oregon?
I
Where
don't
they're
think
in
I don't
Arizona.
think we have them, but I've seen them in other states.
Yeah.
I
And
think they're
Brendan,
in
the
Wyoming.
beauty, no, they're in Arizona. I live there. The beauty is they even stay open as late as a bar. So at like 2 in the morning, your friends can just be like, let's make a mad dash for the drive-through liquor store.
Yeah, I think here they
Isn't
shut
it?
down all alcohol for purchase at stores at midnight. You can't buy any alcohol
Yeah, even
outside
beer
of a
and
bar.
wine.
Right. Yeah.
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 But
It's the same here in Florida. At midnight, after midnight, you can't buy any alcohol in a store.
mhm.
I would think you would
But
have
you can go
more
to.
of the blue laws in Florida, like you can't get booze on Sundays and stuff.
No, that's Pennsylvania and
Well, it's
up
like that in
there.
Tennessee too, so.
I don't know.
That's
Didn't spend
Iran
much
you're
time
thinking
in.
of.
It was who to what?
I just know. I was in Philly, and it was a Sunday, and I wanted to get some beer and take it back to my hotel because I was there for some reason, and I couldn't buy beer, and I'm like, at the store, I'm like, okay, I know I'm from Florida. What the fuck? What do I do? Do I have to go to like a bar? I mean, I don't want to go to a bar. I just want to get some beer and go back to my hotel room. And he goes, go to the Pizza Hut. I'm like, go to
What?
the, go to the Pizza Hut. He goes, yeah, go to the Pizza Hut, knock on the back door.
Yes, for
When they,
Jimmy.
yeah, when they open it, say, hey, can I buy a 6 pack of beer? And they'll sell you a 6 pack of beer, but it's got to be cash. And I'm like, oh, this isn't shady at all.
I was
No.
like, did it work?
Yeah, it worked.
I didn't even know Pizza Huts could sell beer. Do
Well, I
they
mean,
sell
Yeah,
them
it
here?
depends upon which state you're in.
Okay.
If they have a liquor license or not, or if they have a beer and wine license,
Wow.
or if
I'm
they have a
sure that
packaged license of some kind. But cash at the back door, I don't know if they're allowed to, Greg.
that
No,
seems
that's
shady.
obviously against the law. Yeah.
Yeah,
But I didn't care. I just wanted some beer and go back to watch,
Yeah.
Showtime or whatever it was in my hotel.
yeah, you need beer for that.
Mm.
So there's other age limits that we have to deal with, like the age of getting married, right? So I think you have to be. It's like a consent of the parents,
Isn't
or
that the same
like
as age of
18.
consent
I think
in
it's
most
different.
states?
I think it's different.
Oh, okay.
I know
So you can
because one
fuck.
is one is sex and one is marriage.
Yeah, but you'd think, okay, you're ready to fuck.
One you don't
Obviously,
need a
you get
license
married.
for. You need a license to
True.
get married. You don't need a license
Yeah.
to have sex.
In
Because
in
think of all the
Florida,
people, Greg, that you've had sex with it. You didn't have a license to do it with.
Oh, I had a license for that.
Did you?
A
A
license
license
to
for
thrill.
love?
Yeah.
in Florida, the age is 16, and I know this because I know young ladies who got married at 16.
And how are they doing now? Having good, productive lives, hopefully?
Uh, I don't. Let me think. One got pregnant shortly after. I think she's doing okay. She pumped out a few puppies, and she's
Okay. Apparently, so
I don't know
she's
that she's with her.
her 16-year-old
I
husband.
don't think she's with her. No, no, her husband was not 16.
How old was the husband, out of curiosity? How old was the reprobate, if I may ask?
I
His,
think he
his
was
name was Brendan.
22.
22.
No.
22. No,
Yes.
Greg, don't go there, Greg. Yeah, it's yeah, that's just makes creeps me out whenever guys in their 20s are going after teenagers.
Because I have to say, I knew a lot of women in the 70s, 80s who, like, they were 16, they dated a guy who was 20, right? That's obviously not kosher with the law. But it wasn't this bad, creepy thing they were taking advantage of. That was their first boyfriend. He was pretty cool. It didn't work out like most teenage love. But they don't have this horrible thing like, oh, I wish somebody would have stopped me. I mean, that was a thing back then. It was like, yeah, 16-year-olds might date a 19-year-old or whatever. I
Well,
don't know if
yeah,
it's,
Jerry Lee Lewis did. He married one before.
well, she was 13, I think.
It's
Yeah,
like
14.
Elvis Presley, same thing with Priscilla. She was like 16 and he was in his 30s or
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Yeah. In Oregon, I just looked it up. In Oregon, it's 17 because that year
Yes.
makes a huge
Yes.
difference.
Well,
You
it does
mature so
because
much.
you can then have sex at the movies that you couldn't
And
get into
raunchy
Yeah.
movies.
So you can get into
Yes.
an R-rated movie, so you should be able to get married.
and have sex in the
Okay,
back.
I can follow that logic.
Yeah.
Yeah. We could have chapels and movie theaters.
But
Come
but
to your
but
movie,
but
fuck in
It's
the
a good
back row,
start,
and then you get
except for
married.
the whole virus issue. But yeah,
right.
it could happen.
But
Yeah.
but like Florida, if they are 17 or in Florida 16, they do have to have their parents' consent. So mom and dad do have to sign off on that.
Ah.
Makes you wonder about the parents who do sign off on those things. It's like, what goes through their head? We're like, okay, well, this guy's in his 20s, my kid's 16. I think they should get hitched. Where does the mindset come from? Like there's either one, something wrong with them, right? Or
Mhm.
two, the husband to be is incredibly persuasive, or his comes from a lot of money or something, or has some connection to like black ops training in some way.
That's
Like,
the only other conclusion you could imagine.
of
Black
course,
Ops.
exactly. You
I
know,
want my 6-year-old
he
daughter to marry a
does
Black
wet
Ops
work.
guy.
He does wet work, Greg.
He'll be able to protect you, you're saying,
Exactly. You know, he'll
from
have
threats.
Well,
it'll be like
you know,
Liam Neeson, and he'll have a certain set of talents and abilities in case she ever got kidnapped by I don't know, Proud Boys and Antifa at the same time. But what
That
were you
would be.
saying? What was that, Greg?
I was just gonna say that's a great movie plot you just came up with. I would watch that movie so hard. Proud Boys and Antifa team up to kidnap a young girl, and the Black Ops
Because
husband has
she's
to
the
save
only one who can save the country and make America America again.
her. I like it. In a world.
In a world where two people were in love. One, former CIA assassin. Two, teeny popper knocked up at 16.
Head cheerleader.
Parents clueless, but willing to die for their country. This
Good
week,
stuff.
this
Got
week at
legs.
your local cinema,
It's got legs. As they say.
starring Charlie Sheen and Corey Elwes. Anyway,
Lindsay Lohan.
okay, whoever you
She's
want.
old now.
She's old now.
She's over the hill.
She's so old.
No,
She's
she's in
like
her
in her
late
late
20s.
20s, right?
Yeah, that's in
So
Hollywood. That's over
old.
the hill
All right,
for women.
we'll go with Dakota Fanning or her little sister, one of those child stars.
Well, actually, I think
They're probably in their
Elle
They're 30
Fanning's
by now.
actually been in this show that I've been watching on Hulu called The Great. It's like a comedy about Catherine the Great of Russia.
Can you get her on our show?
No. Well, I mean, I
Oh.
suppose if I tried really hard, I could probably figure out a way to make it happen. But I'm not really interested in getting celebrities on our show because that would like diminish their careers, and I don't really want to ruin anybody's career. So I think that would
well,
be.
maybe there's somebody's career we want to ruin. and
Yeah,
That's
maybe
that's
I
an
do.
interesting idea. Maybe we dedicate like an episode to us trying to get a hold of some no class celebrity that we all hate.
I
and
want
put them
Carrot Top on.
Oh, actually, I like Carrot Top, regardless of the props. I saw him actually do a stand-up routine using no props. The hilarious thing about it was he talked about his props. So it's like
Oh, we missed them?
he's trying to do a show about not having props, and he's basically telling stories about what had happened to props of his over the years. No, but he was a funny guy. I think his claim to fame was just his energy. He had a really good energy whenever he performed his shtick, and he wasn't like somebody putting other people down. He was just having some fun. Unlike Gallagher, who went insane and lost his mind over the years, probably from too many divorces. Anyway, so back to we don't need these stinking age limits. What other age limits do you think there are? I think there's smoking has an age limit, right?
Oh, yeah? Huh.
When I was in junior high in Bremerton, Brendan, where you kind of grew up a little for a bit of time, I was getting tobacco at like 14 to 15 years old with no age check at all. I was buying pipe tobacco and cigars at that, at that age.
This was
Were
in
they supposed to?
Bremerton.
This is in Bremerton, Washington, back in 1980 and 81. I think
Yeah,
at the time there were, directives that said you don't sell to people under the age of 16, but I think that they just didn't care and they just sold me it anyway.
that's what we call Bremerton.
Well, that's what we call something obviously wrong with me that I think about it because what the hell am I doing smoking cigars and smoking a pipe at that age? You know,
I in
I
Bremerton.
had a corn cob pipe for crying out loud.
Well, that's weird, but for other reasons,
It was
Yeah.
I
I
didn't have a
started
lot of money for a good one.
I started smoking cigarettes and buying them myself in Bremerton when I was 15.
Cigarettes,
Yep.
okay.
Yep. Didn't get carded. Didn't ask shit. Just came in and asked for Camel Lights or Camel Unfiltered or whatever the hell I was smoking. And they was like, there you go.
Well, maybe then that's why it's not an issue if Marines at the age of 17 or 16 can't drink because they could probably go to a local store. If the stores are near like a military base, they might just sell to those guys anyway because they figure they're in the military and they don't care. I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe
Could be.
yeah, that's a theory. I don't have any evidence to back that up.
I want it official though.
Like
I want this.
any of us have evidence to back up what we're talking about. So, what do you think
I
a
think
minimum driving age should be? I mean, a lot of places at the age is 16 or 17. So, why
14. I
would
think in some southern states or country states, it's like 14 even
just so that
because
they
they
can have
figure they have to
sex in
work
the
on a
back in the
farm.
car? Oh, okay.
But they figure they have to be able to drive a tractor or whatever, and drive around,
But why
So
not
you get
younger? Why not younger than
fertilizer.
that, though? Why not like 13? Well, I mean,
They can't reach the pedals.
In Judaism, technically, you were a man at the age of 13. You had your
Yeah.
bar mitzvah, you were considered a man, you could be a head of a household at the age of 13. I wonder what the age of consent was back then.
Back,
who gives a shit? I think that was the age of consent.
It was abuse anybody you can get away with at that age, at that time in
It
yeah.
history.
was how much money do you have?
No, it's how much sheep do you own?
Same thing.
Probably not a lot of shekels in their pockets, but if they had some sheep, you're doing pretty good.
I think people shouldn't drive. I think 16 is a reasonable age limit for people to drive. I wouldn't.
What about driving sheep though? How old should you be to be able to drive a herd
to
of
be a
sheep?
shepherd.
Yeah, what would be the appropriate age for that?
I mean,
Oh, that's a
for
tough
driving a
one.
tractor.
No, the
No
actual
sheep.
sheep themselves.
Oh, driving sheep like a shepherd, like with a
Sure.
stick,
Yeah,
Or riding on them. Yeah, a ride with a stick, exactly.
whatever the fuck.
Because sheep you need a stick for.
you have to be old enough
There's
to
no
fight off a
automatic
wolf.
sheep out there. What was that?
If
Yeah,
you're old
you have
enough to steer
fight a
sheep,
wolf.
then you're fine.
To fight a wolf or to cry about a wolf.
Yeah,
That
your
could
voice
be.
has to crack enough so people will hear you crying wolf.
So basically, maybe puberty is the line.
It seems like that's what it is. Like when it comes to like the old age of consent laws, like back in the 100 years ago, people were getting married at 13 because they were sexual. So they
Right.
figured
And you
they're
needed to have
sexual,
lots of
they can
children.
have sex.
Yeah, you needed to have
Yeah,
lots of children to survive the bad times.
I
but then
think
again,
having raised three kids, and Matt, you can maybe chime in. I think 16 is 16, 17, somewhere around there. I think they're old enough to be responsible enough to know that they're driving a car and be safe.
I think a
Um,
couple of mine in their 20s I wouldn't trust to drive a car or have sex
yeah,
for that matter.
well, yeah,
or be a shepherd.
just come. That's fine.
Or be a shepherd. We're about to have company. Well, hi, Holly.
Hey, hey, how was the signal tonight?
Oh, got goofy.
Yeah,
Brendan
All
froze,
right.
his head froze a couple of times.
someone was watching Netflix apparently and ruined the show. I'm not pointing fingers.
No, he's
I'm
pointing
just
his
saying someone.
nose, which is gigantic.
Was it any better than normal?
It got better now
It's been
recently.
better since he came back on from whenever he froze and got kicked off.
Huh.
Yeah. But I think that's part of if it's brand new setup that it could take a few days to kick in completely to get the smoothness into the
I
system.
hadn't thought about Netflix affecting it. So does Netflix affect it?
If you're streaming Netflix, yes. If you're using DVDs, no.
Oh, we're streaming.
Well, then
Yeah,
it definitely affects it because you're using the same signal. You're using the same
Okay.
tube. It's kind of like if you were imagine going through a flume with a bunch of people on an inner tube, and you put more than one person going down that inner tube, it starts to get full. Well, that's kind of how it
Right.
works with Wi-Fi too.
That was an odd description of technology.
It is.
That was
A
The
flute.
internet is a
like a
series
flute.
of tubes. You can't put trucks in tubes. Thanks, old man.
No, I think that was awesome. I thought that was a great analogy, Matt.
Thank you, Holly. That's why I like Holly better than Brendan.
It's probably the second weirdest analogy I've ever heard.
Second weirdest analogy you've ever heard.
Someone
Listen,
else.
if you listen to this more often, you'll hear a lot worse ones.
Yeah, you will. From Matt.
A lot of
No.
bad analogies.
No.
That's right. Don't forget, aliens brought Adam and Eve here, but that's a different story.
Night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks for visiting. Don't take any wooden nickels. Okay, got to figure out how I can edit that out. So
Maybe we shouldn't.
should just leave it there, like the extraneous things. Just make the.
It'll humanize.
Then we'll
us.
have to start putting this on YouTube then, so that then people can understand
'cause
what's
How
actually
many
going
people
on.
hate us for different reasons, and so this will humanize us and give us a little.
One of these days, I'm going to start attacking our video files and doing things with them to put on YouTube.
Well, the thing is, just to be honest, if we, not calling you out, Greg, if we start earlier, because now we're getting to bedtime.
Oh, right.
So
Yeah.
if we start earlier, we start like at 8 or 5, then they're going to be just doing their thing. But if we go at 9 and it gets to be
Like-
10:30, they're going to start going to bed.
So basically, Greg, this is all your fault.
I know this is another
Causing
fluke.
this.
It probably shouldn't happen again.
No, you're
It's
not
fine.
calling him out, Brendan. I'm calling him out because it's my job to give Greg crap. So that's
And
what I was
you're
hired
quite
to do.
good at it.
I was hired to do that, and I'm just fulfilling my duties.
And
All
you're
right, so
excelling.
I think we've gone through quite a bit here. Is there anything else we want to address regarding the age limits, or should we just get to the pizza? The pizza fund.
Let's see. We've talked about voting. Talking about all the age limits of voting, military,
Drinking, smoking.
smoking.
Yeah.
They recently on smoking. They recently raised the buy cigarettes age here in Florida to 21.
I think they raised it
think-
here too.
Yeah, I think so. You know what's weird? I don't like that one. I would like them to raise it to 79. Because I want
It's like
someone to force me
only
to quit
the elderly,
smoking.
only the elderly should smoke.
They're going to die
I think-
anyway. Because I can't quit by myself. I need them to outlaw it.
You would
I
still
won't
find a
quit.
way to smoke them, Greg. You'd
I
bootleg
know.
just like people do with marijuana for all
I
this.
would, you're right. Yeah.
And now that
I'd be like
marijuana
Al
is legal
Capone.
here, it's like anybody's doing it if they want to do it,
Mhm.
except for you and me.
I think at a certain age. I think my final comment on this: at a certain age, I don't know what that age may be. We could talk about it or just table it. But at a certain age, I think you should be able to do whatever the fuck you want to do. If you're 80 and you want to do heroin, go for it. Smoke crack, be my guest.
Oh, yeah. Why not?
Murder somebody,
die.
I don't care. If you're 80 and you can actually physically kill somebody without a gun, like you have to do it by hand.
Do it
then-
by hand.
Oh,
You do it with a knife?
Yeah, you can do it with a knife.
Okay. A
But
garrote.
if
only by garrote, actually. It shouldn't even be a knife. It should be
If you're
only
strong
by
enough
garrote. If you're
to
80
strangle
years
someone by
old,
garrote.
you know, Jack LaLanne could have done it. He could have
Yeah,
done
I
it.
could've
agree.
killed a lot.
And I bet you
He's strong.
Schwarzenegger could probably do that too.
for sure Schwarzenegger could do it.
Yeah, so I don't
But
know. And
most
he would
people-
probably go around killing too many people. So I don't know if that's a good law.
I don't know. I'm just saying. Well, okay, maybe not the killing part, but the drug thing. Whatever. Let him do
I
whatever
think
the hell he wants.
Schwarzenegger
Yeah.
should be allowed to do heroin. I think that's.
I think it would be a great
As a matter
idea.
of fact, I would want him to start today if he could. I want him to do heroin, and I want maybe like a good addiction to crystal meth going on, just so that he can understand what he did to all those guys in Pumping Iron. In terms of how he messed with their heads, it should be happening to him now. Plus, he doesn't deserve to have all of his teeth.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow.
Really?
A lot of hate.
I never knew you hated Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I don't. I
had
love
no idea.
Schwarzenegger, but I just think it's
You got
appropriate
some
for his
issues,
life.
it sounds like. With
I
this.
think I
Schwarzenegger
would
abused me.
Yeah, I don't know what he did.
I
to
was
you,
not
but
the
you're-
age of consent when you took me, and I was very unhappy.
I would tune in to Arnold on heroin. I think that would be a great show.
I think it'd be a great reality show. Yes.
Yeah.
It should be a reality show.
I just want to hear him speaking with that.
And it should be
accent
like
already.
everybody on TV who was ever named Arnold should be on that same show. You know, like Arnold
Like
the
the
pig from
cartoon
Green
character?
Acres. Yeah, the cartoon characters. Their cartoon.
Hey, Arnold.
Aardvark? Was that the Arnold the Aardvark or something?
I think he's just a kid, but he's weirdly drawn. He's like a football-shaped head. Hey Arnold, I think it's called.
I
Nick
don't
at Night. Nick.
Oh, maybe. Yes. I
Yeah, I don't know why. I never watched it.
You would
I
know
should have
better
brought it up.
because you watch cartoons and I don't.
I
That was a mid '90s cartoon. My kids watched it.
Yep. See, I didn't make it up.
Why'd you say Yahtzee? We're not
I
playing
don't think anyone
Yahtzee,
said
Greg.
Yahtzee.
You just did. You said Yahtzee.
Yahtzee?
Who said
No, I
Yahtzee?
Greg said
you're a
Yahtzee.
fucking Nazi.
Yeah, you're a fucking Nazi. I would agree with that.
Well, my political leanings are not necessarily need to be known to everybody.
Your
So,
National Socialism doesn't need
you
to be talked
should,
about
should
tonight.
not be discussing
That's
my
another
political
episode.
affiliations, guys. It's not
Let's
okay.
get. I want to
All
get
of my
to pizza.
family would have an issue with that.
Yeah, I want to get to pizza and numbers.
I'm the first Jewish Nazi.
Pizza.
Anyway, yeah, okay, so we have
actually not.
at this stage, yeah, I'm pretty sure, $4.29.
What?
So
what
that's
we've got.
not as good as last week, but better than most weeks,
Well, it's
right?
better
30
than
cents?
last week. Oh, you're
No,
talking
I
about
thought we went up
in terms of
90
how-
cents last week.
I think we went up about 38 cents. Is what
Yeah.
I think we went up because I think we were at 391,
We were at 391, and then we went up to
so we're at 429. No, we've had bad weeks, but you know the weird thing is that we've actually had a pretty good play off of that last episode. We've had 34 plays, which is nearly tied with the week before, which is a 35 plays. So that's had 2 weeks momentum. So obviously there's somebody out there listening to us besides
God bless
us. Besides us,
A
I
few
can't
friends.
imagine that it's Paula listening to it over and over again because I think she just listened to it once. Your sister listens to it, Greg. Nobody
Yes.
I live with listens to it if they can help it. But yeah,
My family only listens to it, because I'm talking.
yeah, our best week was what was it? September. Best day was September. Come here, come on, work with me, damn you.
Do you remember?
September 3rd.
The 20?
September
Ah,
3rd, we had
September.
35 plays over all of the episodes, which is more than we've had the entire time we've been in operation. The best day we ever had before that was somewhere back in June, and it's not giving me a number. We had 21 plays on July 12th. So we broke records with on September 3rd, getting 35 plays on that one day. All right?
Wow.
So yeah, that's kind of amazing. So
What's the age of consent for being a school teacher? That's what we should have talked about, and our ratings would have been through the roof.
age of consent, old enough to go to school and pay for it. You know, it's
I'm
like
sorry, I meant age limit on a school teacher.
age limit on school teachers, whatever retirement age is. That's like in their 60s, 65 or
No,
something.
you can't be a school teacher for 15. There's age limits the other way, too.
I think if you could get through college and get your degree by the age of 15, they would let you be a school teacher.
Matt, I just wanted to bring up schools because schools is our moneymaker. That's what I was doing there.
But
I
it's
really wanna
not
talk about
because
that.
our last episode had was huge. It was marriage and glue sniffing
But I
with-
thought we made more money from
with
school.
34 plays. Well, I guess we made more money from that week, perhaps. But you know,
That's all I care
this
about.
is a relative term, really, Greg, in terms of money. Because I could
Mhm.
give you the money in my wallet right now, which would be a lot more than what we've made since we started the podcast.
Whoa, big spender there.
Because
Yeah,
we
$5
made,
in
Wait
his
a minute, just so I understand,
yes,
the money
yes,
has to do with collective views of all episodes,
correct,
not just the one that was produced that week. So,
yes.
okay.
Right, yeah. It's overall episodes. And the fact is that we have made a total since the podcast started in June of $4.29. That's
Yeah.
total. That's cumulative. That's the entire amount that we've made.
Well, I'm just worried that you're carrying so much cash in your wallet more than that you're a target for muggers, Matt. You got to be.
If I have a $5 bill in my pocket, I have more than what we've made.
That's what I'm saying.
But I would have to be a target for muggers. I would have to be walking around somewhere outside, and that doesn't happen. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't.
I'm trying to
do
see
that.
if I have. Where's my wallet?
It's right behind you in your
It
chair.
isn't right.
You sat on it. Anyway, all right. So let's get some analytics here in terms of our audience. So yeah, we keep losing the French people. And after this episode, they might all be gone.
They're gone. Yeah.
83%.
I put an end to the French audience by opening up with the cuties thing.
83% American, 13% France, 1% Ireland, and then, of course, less than 1% Canada, India. India, was it India before? Ukraine, Nigeria, United Kingdom, Germany. Hey, we've got a new one. Philippines.
One
Probably
of your old
somebody,
friends?
probably somebody who works for me.
Maybe. I don't know. Somebody work for you in the Philippines?
About 15 people.
15
In a
people in the Philippines
sweatshop?
work for you.
Hmm.
Making blue jeans in a sweatshop for you, Brendan?
No,
And your-
off-brand members-only jackets.
No, neither one.
It's a call center or something?
No, I have basically digital marketing people. I have a person who does a lot of LinkedIn work for me.
Oh, okay.
I've got a guy that does web development, a couple of guys that do web, like 3 or 4 guys that do web development. Kind of a personal assistant, administrative type person. Yeah.
Are they like spread
Brendan-
throughout the Philippines, or are they like in Manila, or where are they?
They're a little, and then my main 2 guys from me are in Bangladesh, but
And did you meet these guys on the street? How did you come across them? So just randomly walked in and guys, hey, you guys look, are you Bangladeshi? I need you. Come here.
yeah, that's exactly how it happened.
Yeah.
Like, tell me about your tigers.
So, Brendan, the next time you're having a Zoom meeting with your Philippine colleagues,
Yeah.
would you ask them what's the best way to
You
kill
just
a
made
cobra?
them Irish, Greg. You called them Philippine colleagues, like apostrophe colleagues.
I meant to say Filipino, and then the O got a little lagged.
It became
But ask them what's the best way to kill a
Filipino-Irish.
cobra. A steamroller or a bus, a school bus. They'll know.
Which is
Oh,
more efficient, or which
Yeah.
is faster. The bus is faster,
I'm happy to
and a
ask.
cobra can outrun the steamroller. We have already confirmed this, Greg. I don't know why you're still
The cobras are dumb. I
bringing
haven't
back
confirmed
this,
it. I still don't believe it.
bringing
I'd
back
rather have a
this argument.
steamroller.
I've mostly been talking to them about the flying foxes, those big fruit bats that they have out there.
Uh
That's been my main topic.
huh. You hired them just to get information on the bats.
No, just it kind of came up, and that was sort of my local angle on whatever. I mean, the guy that I work with in Bangladesh was telling me that they have packs of wild dogs in Dhaka, which is the main capital city in Bangladesh, and that in the rainy season the dogs get really very aggressive and kind of lose their minds for some reason, but the people aren't allowed to put the dogs down. That's only a government thing. Only the government can kill the dogs. So he said that the locals really appreciate when the Korean contractors come in to build stuff because the dog population disappears.
Oh no, we're not going to hit that.
Oh,
topic.
no. We just did.
We're not going to
Too
go for
late.
that topic.
I'm just saying that's what he told me, and he's local. I'm just reporting the.
Well,
Your
the
fruit bat consultant in the Philippines told you this.
the positive thing is that he froze before he could go into more detail out of it. But right now, Brendan looks like he's saying, "Stop! Don't touch me there," because that's how he's frozen on the screen. All right, so this is a good time to end off our particular broadcast because Brendan is unable to talk. He is merely a frozen picture on our screen.
Oh, no.
So, Greg, what of importance do you have to say? I'm going to unlock the meeting in case he wants to come back in. But
Yeah.
what pithy, profound thing do you have to end off? We don't need no Stinkin age limits with.
Why do you always try this and nothing pithy ever comes out of my mouth or
Perfect.
witty? Wait, that wasn't it. I was going to say something else.
What were you going to say? What were you going to
No,
say?
I was going to try to say something semi-pithy. No, I'm kidding. That's a good way to end it.
What's a good way to end it?
Oh, you didn't end it? Oops.